Hey you, amazing listener. Before we dive into this week's episode, I have a quick note to share. Since you're here because you're interested in hearing from leaders at the forefront of AI innovation, I thought you'd want to know about Canva's upcoming AI Vision event in Sydney this August. We're bringing together some amazing speakers and I'd love for you to be there. Scan the QR code on screen or search for AI Vision Sydney to find out more.
That's a real problem right now for businesses, how expensive AI has gotten. They'd allocated a budget for AI for the year, which they actually already consumed, not even 1 month in. And that whole budget is already, exhausted because, these tools are very, very hungry.
Welcome to Prompted, a podcast about AI, people, and the creative spark. I'm Cameron Adams, co-founder and chief product officer of Canva, and I'm on a mission to talk to AI leaders about how they're practically using AI to be more creative and amplify their teams. Today, we are joined by Arvind Jain. Arvind is the founder and CEO of Glean, a work AI platform. Prior to Glean, Arvind co-founded and led R&D at Rubrik, one of the fastest growing companies in cloud data management. And he spent over a decade at Google as a distinguished engineer where he led teams in Google Search, Maps, and YouTube. Arvind, a huge welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you. Now, before we dive into the deep Q&A, we love to kick off the show with the prompt. With the prompt, we get you to sketch something from your past. Could be a childhood memory, could be something that shaped your career, and you need to tell us the story of that moment. Are you ready to pick up a pen and tell us that story?
Yeah, this is 1985, I think. I was about 10 years old. And my elder brother, had gotten a PC at home. And
what sort of PC was it?
It was I think 286, if I remember right.
Classic.
And it had the larger floppy drives, the 3.5-inch floppy drives. And actually, the whole concept was not really appealing to me. But a few days later, he actually got a few games, and one of them was Pac-Man. And he showed that, we could play these games. Before that, we didn't really have video games. And I grew up in India. So I think this is actually even more unusual than, most Indians won't be able to tell that story. I think my brother was a pioneer, in terms of even understanding that, there's something, called a computer and it could be useful at home.
Yeah.
And so he brought it there and we saw these games. He showed me how to play these video games on the computer. Pac-Man was my favorite. And that's what actually got me hooked into computers. I felt well, if I could actually also make games like that, because he also showed me that those are things that you not just buy, you could actually go and build games on your own.
Well, I would love to see what you have sketched. So hold it up and let us see it.
That's kind of embarrassing, but I was just trying to show a picture of that old, computer with a small tiny monitor and a huge, box below it and then a keyboard. And I'm trying to show myself sitting on a chair, but I think it, exposed me and my drawing skills to you.
That's quite a work of art. I'm pretty impressed with that. So I think that gives something for Matt, our designer, to really work with. He's going to take it away. He's going to take your sketch, use a bit of AI to bring it to life, and we will see what the results are at the end of the show.
Awesome.
For now, let's dive deep on AI with you. All right, so you spent years building search at Google, but at some point, your focus shifted from helping people navigate the internet to actually helping companies understand themselves. I would love to know, was there a particular moment that inspired that transition for you and led to the insight that looking inside companies could be just as valuable as looking outside of them?
So actually, I left Google after about a decade of working there to start this company called Rubrik, which is a cloud data security and protection company. We grew fast as a company. And in 5 years, we were actually, I think, over 2,000 people. And that's fast growth for any startup.
Yeah.
And the last year that I was there, we grew about 3x. And it felt like, everything was falling apart. We had a lot more people in the company, but we're actually getting less work done. People were struggling. We're not able to release our software on time. Our business people were not selling the product as much as they were able to a year before. So we're trying to understand, what happened. We saw a huge market opportunity, and which is what prompted us to actually go and 3x our team, and the returns didn't come. And when we asked people what was going wrong, the biggest complaint from them was that, hey, we cannot find anything in this company. Like whatever information I need to do my job, I don't have it. I also cannot actually find the right people who can help me figure out how to do these jobs. So this enablement problem was a huge issue for us at the company. And it was not surprising to me. We were built in this new SaaS era. We had about 300 different systems internally. Our company's knowledge, data, information was fragmented across all of those. And even I couldn't find anything inside. And it's a problem that was not unique to us at Rubrik. Even at Google, that was always the running joke. We were in the business of helping everybody in the world quickly find information and get answers to the questions. But we never really helped ourselves inside Google. It was incredibly hard to find a design document that you're looking for at Google.
I always remember those yellow boxes that Google tried to sell at one stage, where it was like plug and play into your enterprise and it would help you find anything. But I'm not sure how that turned out.
It never worked because it was so hard to actually even put stuff inside of that box. So it's a long-standing problem. Enterprise search was never solved. But I felt it in the moment, this is 2018. I felt that now the world had changed. With SaaS, systems became a lot more interoperable, and you could actually build a really amazing search product. The SaaS transformation combined with transformers and language models, felt like, two big developments that would make it possible to build a great search product. And it's super important because a third of all employee time is just wasted trying to find information at work.
Were language models around in 2018 that you could utilize?
Yeah, so that was actually the time when Google had actually put BERT in open domain. It was a model that was trained. It's a small language model now, but at the time it was phenomenal. It was trained on all of the world's data and corpus. And you could take that model and you could pre-train that at each one of our enterprise customers. You could build this language model that could semantically and conceptually understand information inside a company. And we felt that was actually a big unlock to making search more natural for people, where you can just come in and you don't have to remember exact words to find information. You could sort of freely express what you're looking for. And we could use these embeddings and the vector search technologies. These terms didn't exist at the time, but the models were there. So we actually built the industry's first vector search solution combined with traditional search techniques to sort of build this really effective product, where people can go and ask their questions, and we do the hard work of finding the right information from across all these hundreds of different enterprise systems that you have.
Was it hard to leave a company that you had started and were so deeply ingrained in?
Yeah, it was actually, initially, when I was thinking about this idea, it was not with the mindset of that we're going to leave Rubrik and start Glean as a separate company. In fact, I actually thought there was a lot of technical synergy between what we're already building at Rubrik, and because Rubrik was in data protection business. So we did have to actually do the work of connecting with enterprise systems, bringing all of that information in one place so that we can just save it for safeguarding, that data. So I felt like half the work was already done. I just had to now build a search index on top of it. So initially I thought I could build this product inside our company, but then it didn't make sense, as you sort of go deeper. So it was a difficult thing for me, but part of me, the way I thought about it was I never made it, I never sort of felt like I was leaving, because I was actually working on this specific project precisely to help, the company itself. So I kind of felt like, I was part of the team, even when I had actually, now I'm working separately on this project.
When you were looking for people to help you start Glean, did you look to your partners in Rubrik, or are there other skills that you needed to bring together to make it happen?
Well, this is a very different product from the infrastructure product that we built at Rubrik. So it required different type of people. But luckily, of course, I knew many of them, having spent over a decade of my engineering career building search and AI systems. I had a lot of colleagues from Google and who had all felt the same pain. I'm sure, Cameron, you probably also have struggled, in your career trying to find information at work. So the problem
Yeah.
actually appeals to every engineer. Initially left Google to start Rubrik. There were like these, amazing folks who I wanted to work with, but I couldn't convince them to work on a data protection product. But as soon as I told them that, we're going to build a great search product for people in their work lives, they were really excited. So we built that original team. A lot of the folks actually came from Google, like my ex-colleagues.
You said that working on things like Google Maps taught you how messy real world data really is. I imagine that ended up being really good preparation for what you do now.
Absolutely. I mean, enterprise data environments are really, really complex. I mean, think about like in a business that's been in existence for the last 100 years or 50 years. There's so much information, so much knowledge that's been written over this long period of time. Much of that information now is obsolete, but as such, like, it's not marked like that. And so you have to, when you think about, I'm going to connect with all the information inside the company and still help people, you better not share with them obsolete information. So you have to build all of that disambiguation inside the company. So the internet is the same way. Like, there is, of course, no controls in terms of who gets to produce what information on the internet. So the way Google was built always was with that same mindset that, hey, you have to deal with varying levels of quality of information and you have to extract the gems from the noise. So same concepts apply in enterprise, just like you have to use different techniques to solve the same problem.
When we're talking enterprise data, what is it? Is it cloud databases? Is it spreadsheets stored on someone's laptop? I imagine it's a wide array of things.
It's both of them, but also a lot of data that's in your email systems, communication systems for engineers, documents that you write in Confluence, tickets that you store in Jira. These days, also meeting recordings. A lot of context of how your business works is, people talking to each other, which luckily now, like, we're digitizing more and more of the enterprise. So really, when you think about Glean, the way to think about it is that we are actually connecting to all the data that's inside your enterprise. Structured data, unstructured data, conversations, like actual formal documents, tickets, customer interactions, all of it. Because ultimately, what we are building for you is one place where you can go and ask any question, and we're going to actually surface the right answer back. And that requires us to be comprehensive.
You mentioned working with a company that might be 100 years old and has a massive trove of information. And yes, some of that information is going to be obsolete because it was about the 1960s, not about the environment that we're operating in now. How do you figure out when data is obsolete and what is relevant to what someone's searching for right now?
There's a lot of knowledge which is not high quality. Like somebody maybe wrote a document for their personal use. It's not, like doesn't have all the great details. You have to sort of understand the quality of information. And of course, being recent is one of the attributes, but how high quality it is it being written by somebody who's a subject matter authority on it? And is it actually also the right information for what I'm actually asking you right now? For example, if I go and, type in a search query, which is onboarding guide, and if I ask that question in Glean, well, now like the right onboarding guide is the one that's relevant for me based on my role, what I do. Like, don't show me the guide which is meant for the marketing team if I'm an engineer. So when you start to think about people's questions and how to answer them correctly, it's not just about the knowledge itself. It's also about the person and understanding them and their role and what information actually matters to them. What's the right one, that actually is going to help them, in the current situation that they are in. So what we do behind the scenes is, after we connect with all of your enterprise systems, we're building a knowledge graph of your enterprise. We're trying to understand your people, your other entities like your customers, partners, trying to understand the products that you build, different projects that are ongoing, the teams, that work on those projects. And then we also look at all the knowledge, the data and the information, and we draw connections between them. We try to understand that, these particular documents are very meaningful for the marketing team. And how we figure that out is by looking at interactions. We look at who consumes what information, who spends more time reading, a certain piece of information about departments, they are part of, right? So that's sort of how we start to build a true understanding of your enterprise, your data, and that powers ultimately, this smart, context aware, role aware search system. But by the way, Glean has, by the way, has evolved far beyond being that search product that we started with. This foundation that we built now has allowed us to actually do a lot more. And today you can think of us as both a Google or a ChatGPT like search and conversational assistant, a personal coworker that you can bring to every enterprise, every employee in your enterprise. You can also use us as enterprise wide RAG platform or an MCP gateway to all enterprise contexts that you can use and agents that you're trying to build inside your enterprise. So as AI has gotten better, so has the capabilities of our product.
What's the difference here between using something connected into ChatGPT or Claude? Because I can connect my Gmail in there, I could have my G Drive or my calendar. It can go out and talk to those things and bring me back answers. I presume that's in real time though, like it's constantly going out and fetching new data and bringing it in every time I prompt it. Feels like Glean is a slightly different approach where you're constantly crawling, creating those connections and then using those every time someone asks. Is that an accurate kind of representation of it?
That's the right explanation for how Claude or ChatGPT works versus how Glean works. For some tasks, it's actually easy for you to actually go and fetch information live from an enterprise system and then have the LLM work on that data. But oftentimes, what we see is that these AI tools are very brute force in nature, and you give them a task, and they start to sort of go on that, on that hunt to find the right information, the right context that they need to solve that task. They will make live connections into Google Drive or Calendar, get some information. And remember that search has never been a solved problem. Like each of these individual systems don't have great search APIs. You ask them questions and they're not always precise in terms of delivering the right information back. But so the burden now is on these models, like, with Claude and ChatGPT. They have to sort of do this retrieval pass once, connect with all these systems live, and then they come back and see what results came back. And usually they're not satisfied. Then they will make another round, and you sort of go into this loop of doing lots and lots of retrieval passes, ultimately to get to a place where you're happy with the context that you've gathered, and then you do the work on it and help the user. But that ends up taking too much, very long time. It also actually consumes and burns a lot of tokens. And that's a real problem right now for businesses, like, how expensive AI has gotten. Versus if you contrast that with Glean, we've done the hard work behind the scenes already. Like on any given topic, we have already aggregated and organized the right information on that topic, so that when AI wants to now work on a given task, we can deliver the right context in one shot to AI so that it can work faster and be more accurate.
How many conversations are you having now with enterprises about token usage, about cost? Like, is it a leading reason for people to look at your service?
Look, AI moves so fast, so nobody was talking about token costs in a big way 2 months back. But in the last 1 month, like, that's become the center of conversation. Every conversation that I'm having, the AI spend at businesses have actually ballooned up, so much. Like companies are telling us that they'd allocated a budget for AI for the year, which they actually already consumed. They're like not even 1 month in, and that whole budget is already, exhausted, because, these tools are very, very hungry in terms of consuming tokens because of the brute force nature of it. So Glean, is a product that competes, with Gemini, Claude, or ChatGPT in some way, because we have the same kind of interface. But we can also be just the layer underneath these tools. With our MCP gateway, we can deliver that enterprise context that these tools need as a backend, as a tool that's available to them. And so we do these studies where we have Claude work, directly with enterprise systems through individual MCP connections, versus when we have Claude connect with Glean as the only system where it, gets enterprise context from. And we see that actually reduces Claude's token usage by more than 50% and make it more than twice as fast.
You said the conversation has changed even in the last 2 months, and the last year has felt like an absolute explosion in the world of AI. New models, new tools, everyone's talking about agents. From where you're sitting, does this feel like a very different moment from any moment in your career, or is it just kind of business as usual for a tech company?
I would say nothing about today's environment feels normal for engineers like me who have been in the industry for over 3 decades now. The pace of the change, of course, is incredible. The appetite for AI, I've never seen an environment where budgets are so big and you can really go and convince customers to actually buy a lot of technology today. Like there's, the appetite for AI is unparalleled. Like there's never been any technology where enterprises feel as compelled as they do today that they have to bring these technologies in. And then the landscape. So we are living in this very, very competitive market, and it has changed, how we operate as a business. We're no longer a category creation or a evangelical play. Now we have to sort of spend all of our energy trying to tell our customers like why our platform is more superior to some of the other products out there.
You mentioned kind of a change in product to be more behind the scenes rather than the first thing that people actually type into. Does that make it a bit harder to get people to understand what you're offering when it's not, maybe not as visual or as much of a product that they're using?
The conversation that we're having is because now there are so many different options. Like you were already talking about Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT also having some connections. They're not as deep, they're not as broad as Glean, but they do have some. And we don't want to be in this conversation where somebody has to think about making a choice between us and one of those other three players. Rather, we are always thinking about how do we add customer value, no matter like at what level of stack, in what position in the stack we offer that value at. So right now the conversation is for us is definitely leading more towards that we become this enterprise-wide context platform, one platform that they can connect to Gemini and Claude and ChatGPT, because a lot of these enterprises have all three of those solutions. And so now we just make each one of them so much better, more precise and cheaper by being that secure context layer underneath them.
I love to let people know that we actually use Glean here at Canva. So it powers our internal enterprise knowledge base, which scans Slack and all our documents so that people inside Canva can easily find stuff. So it is an amazing tool to use. You mentioned budget being unlocked now at unseen levels before. What do you think's actually driving that? Where's the budget come from? Why are they so happy to spend money in this area?
It's very fascinating, like how businesses are actually making room for all this AI spend. And of course, it's also a huge concern now, because while they were making room, they still didn't anticipate like how much more expensive it was going to be for them. So first, what drives all of this is the fact that people know that the world is changing and we're going to be in a very, very different AI powered world. And if you as a business, first of all, if you don't have a workforce that is AI first, and is not able to leverage all the strong capabilities of AI technology, then you're going to be left behind. And so businesses are very eager to make sure that they're training their workforce. They're actually getting everybody on this wave, and then make that best AI powered workforce be a competitive edge, in the future for them.
What's the best way that you've seen of someone training their workforce?
You would, see like two types of users. There will be occasional users who will use it to ask questions. And then there will be power users who are really using these AI tools to actually share their workload with and actually get a lot of work done with, these AI tools. And unfortunately, 90% of the users are in the first category, 10% are in the second one. And so you do have to do more than just giving these tools to people. One of the things that we focus on in Glean is we are recognizing this problem and this gap that is emerging between the AI enthusiasts who are learning more and more how to leverage AI in their day-to-day work versus those who are not able to. So we think that AI can change, and instead of being reactive, where you have to go to AI and you have to be the one who asks what AI is going to do for you. And you need to sort of like, of course, feel and believe that AI can do a complex task for you. And most times, you won't do it. So change that and actually have AI come to you and understand like, you and your work life and what are the 10 things you need to get done this week. And how about like, if AI did 3 or 4 of them for you proactively and just showed the work back to you. So that sort of removes that cognitive load from an individual. It removes, that burden of and that fear of using AI. And it will basically start to drive that education at a much faster pace because now nobody had to think what AI can do for them. AI actually came to them and showed the art of the possible.
Oh, that's a really interesting balance. Within Glean, you can construct your own agents and your own workflows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested as people start making their agents and creating these mini workflows that are powered by AI. Do you end up with AI debt? So you've got, thousands of people at your company all creating their own mini tools. Who's keeping track of whether those are working effectively as new data comes in or new workflows establish? Are they appropriate for what's happening? Who's like looking at all that and making sure that it stays up to date?
So with Glean, we allow people to, or like our customers to actually choose different strategies for like how agents get built and shared across the enterprise. As you could either choose a model where you have only a few people in the company who are official agent builders, and they are the ones who actually go and build these departmental like agents, which have like a full software development life cycle behind them. You test them, you evaluate them, you sort of monitor their quality on a continuous basis. And these are staffed projects, right, where somebody manages these tools actively, and these get shared with the company. Or there's another model where everybody can go and create agents, but there's a concept of a library, and in the library, like, there's moderation. So there are a few people who can approve an agent to go into the library, provided it has the right quality. So you as an individual can build as many agents that you want for yourself, but if you want to share it with somebody else, it has to meet certain criteria. So there are all these different strategies. We're seeing different companies and enterprises taking different approaches. But one thing is, is today, without a doubt an issue, like at many of our customers come up, and users have built over 30,000, 40,000 agents. And most of them are actually like more like, somebody who's trying to experiment and see what AI can do for them. They're not really that useful. Yeah. There's also a lot of duplication. And ultimately, like, we came back to this conclusion that just like knowledge, you will have this proliferation of skills, you'll have a proliferation of agents, and you will have to actually solve that problem of how to expose the right agent or the right skill to a user. You have to solve that again through the search problem. You'll have to figure out what skills are being actively used, like have, positive feedback, same for agents. And that's the world that we're going to be in. I think that's the right world in our opinion, where innovation is unconstrained, but then there are mechanisms to let people find, the right things, for themselves.
How are you seeing skills develop? They've almost seemed to be quite organic. They just popped up overnight and people were talking about new skills that they could deploy through their AI assistant. Are you seeing a quite structured approach to skills, or people are just like sharing random files with one another because they worked?
It's kind of the latter right now. People go and build these skills and then they share it with, people who they know. There's actually very little work that has been done in the industry right now in terms of like, how do you sort of do this work at a departmental or a company level in a more sort of organized or top-down manner? Like, how do you actually publish official skills like for different tasks? And so that's been the focus for us. Like, how do we change, that mechanism where you're ending up with this like, proliferation of duplicate, overlapping, conflicting skills, to where you can actually create one, like, you have the mechanisms where you have a little bit of moderation and review built into this process. And for any given skill, like, there's only one that actually is kind of blessed or official. But second, in Glean, we run a process called skill mining, where instead of actually having having to have people manually go and build these skills. We're actually looking at how work is actually getting done in the enterprise, who are the experts on different topics, and how do they do like a specific piece of work. And so you can actually, in fact, have AI itself give you the first version of these skills, learning from the best people inside your company, and then you can actually make maybe that same expert the owner of that skill, and publish it company wide.
Is that skill mining within Glean itself, or you're skill mining for all enterprises?
Oh no, we are skill mining for all. That's a product feature that we bring to our customers now, and that skill mining happens not through interactions in Glean, of course. Like that's very limited. That skill mining happens by looking at people's work in like all these other enterprise systems.
Kind of loops back to the two models that you talked about earlier. One's a centralized model where AI agents, maybe AI skills are kind of managed by a dedicated team, versus the kind of democratic proliferation of everyone being able to do whatever they want with AI. Are you seeing one or either of those models be more successful?
I actually prefer the model which is kind of a hybrid of the both, where you let everybody go and innovate. I mean, right now this is also the moment where people need to get educated and trained. So it's actually a very good idea for everybody to have that ability to build skills and agents, and in fact let them also share it freely with their colleagues and don't create those guardrails. But at the same time, you have a top-down effort, maybe department by department, where somebody is actually 100% dedicated to building and developing some agents or skills, within their department. And that's an independent effort. And then naturally what would happen is you will see, if you have the ability to sort of combine the two and actually provide a good search on top of that, then people can find the right skill to that they want to use. Like it may be one of the departmental level one, or it could be something that somebody had a great idea and they built it themselves sort of as a bottoms up. What we're seeing is the most success is when you let both of those things happen.
You've talked about this idea of having everyone with an AI work double, and I'm interested whether you're putting that into practice. Is there a Arvind Jain work double? Am I talking to the real Arvind, or am I talking to the double Arvind? I'm not sure. How are you actually using it in your own work?
Yeah, great question. So there's no double for me, like which is like a video version of me, like who could have come and done this session. But internally, there are a lot of specific agents which I keep learning about. Like people are building these without telling me. For example, there is a sound like Arvind agent, and like our sales team uses that agent to actually craft messages for me that they want me to send to our customers and our prospects and executives. So, and similarly, there's another agent that is sort of meant to mimic my thought process, and they use it as a, when they're trying to get a product review done, they will actually run it through this agent and like get feedback, like which is based on like what I've been talking about, what are top things on my mind from a strategic perspective, and also like what decisions and feedback I've given on past product reviews. So it sort of takes all of that information and then and uses that to sort of give people that first pass of, okay, what feedback can you expect? And I think they use it to as a preliminary sort of a trial thing before the real product review happens. So that stuff is happening, like where you can certainly build a digital clone of every employee, like powered by this deep knowledge graph that we built. Like this knowledge graph that Glean has, it's a chronological log of all the actions that I've taken in every enterprise system at a very granular level, and then bubbling up from that to like what tasks I've been working on, how I've been writing. So it's sort of like builds a very deep understanding of like me, my persona, my work, and it's available directly to be used through our sort of MCP gateway.
Sounds a bit like a collection of mini tools, though, rather than a cohesive kind of identity of a double. Do you see that changing anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, I think it felt odd to people to actually create these full blown clones. I don't know why we haven't done it. We have not seen customers do it either. But I think there's one really powerful use case for it, which is for many of these large enterprises, they have aging workforces, and there's a lot of skill that is basically, they're going to lose those skills as the workforce retires. So in that context, I think like getting these digital clones built out now before that person actually leaves is going to be incredibly useful for those enterprises to preserve sort of that knowledge um, and those skills for the long run.
You said something really interesting earlier that as we're going out and getting AI to do a lot of work for us and creating content, there's still a bottleneck here of us being able to consume that and understand it and then take action on it. Are you seeing any progress in that space of enabling us to consume more or make decisions faster based on our knowledge and expertise?
Personally, I feel like we're mostly in the struggle phase right now, like dealing with this overproduction of AI artifacts. There are some guardrails that we are creating. Like, for example, I'll give you a simple example of internally in Glean. When people started to use code gen, and now we have developers who are sending like 100,000 line code change for somebody else to review, and we had two options in front of us. Of course, nobody can review that much code. Nobody has the time.
Yeah.
So option one is that you don't review anymore, or you have an AI reviewer. And option two is that like the person who writes that code using AI is the one who has to review it properly, and where it actually they're going to get uh, called out, like if they don't do that, and the second reviewer, who now is a human, who has to sort of go and read that code. So we are right now still, maybe that's an old school way of doing things, but we are still requiring human reviews internally. But we are putting a lot of emphasis on whoever uses AI to actually review the work of AI and make sure that it is not verbose, it is not going to create burden for the rest of the workforce. So we're putting the burden right now on the other side, not on the consumption side, but on the production side.
You said that models are rapidly becoming more interchangeable. So
Yeah.
Claude, ChatGPT, whatever you want to use, you can sub it in and out. But context is what really matters. What does good context actually look like inside a company aside from every spreadsheet and every document that we've ever created?
Yeah. So when you think about good context is another way of basically saying all the information, the data, and the know-how of how work happens inside your company. That's kind of what context is. What makes good context or context graph are a few different things. One, that it needs to be comprehensive. So you do have to actually go and connect with all of your enterprise systems to assemble all the artifacts, from each one of those systems. And then you have to tie them together, to contextualize them. You have to figure out that this particular meeting notes and this project and this open issue in Jira and that design doc, that they're all sort of part of that same logical sort of initiative, that is underway right now. So you have to sort of be comprehensive. You have to be able to like understand quality, like tease apart, as we were saying before, what's kind of like obsolete and out of date versus what's fresh, up to date, relevant, and important, today. You have to sort of build those relationship graphs to understand, what's the right context for a given task for a given person inside the company. And so all of those things, do require you to invest quite significantly into building these technologies. I would not say that they're fully interchangeable. They're all getting better at different things. They have their strengths, and so a important layer for in your AI tech stack is this concept of a model router, which basically is able to, given any task, decide that this is the right model that I should be using. This is the right amount of reasoning or thinking tokens, that I should be devoting to this task. And so that particular layer is becoming very important. It's also important from a point of view of an enterprise, which is trying to avoid lock-in. Like if you build your all of your agent infrastructure on top of one model, then your dependence is basically too high. And what if other companies innovate more in the future? It's like doesn't feel like a future-proof strategy. So like for us at Glean, that's one of our advantages. The fact that we can work with all the different models, um, and we build that router, which basically lets us pick the right model for the right task. Is very important, right? I would say that right now this is actually super important for enterprises as they're trying to curb token consumption costs.
With regards to context, how deep can you go? Like, is it good context to understand what people click on or what they look at or what they're typing? Is there a line on where context should be enabled and where it shouldn't?
No, I think ultimately the more you understand, people and their behavior and work and how decisions get made, the better it is. So I don't think there is a boundary, where you stop. You have to do it in a secure fashion anyway. By which I mean that you have this very deep context, but don't deliver it to the wrong person. Like for example, if I have opinions on some of my staff members, like those are private to me. Like when somebody else is trying to actually use enterprise context, they should not be able to use that particular part of it, which kind of is personalized and private to me. With the right guardrails, the right approach for context is to go as deep as you can, and that does require you to sort of track activity at that level that you mentioned, which is look at every document that you open, look at every post that you sort of like or or support, because that's how you like build that fundamental understanding of like every individual or like how any piece of work is actually getting done.
Is there a point where that begins to feel like surveillance though?
It's actually interesting. Like, we have customers with the right intent, and they do ask us oftentimes that, hey, like, in Glean, you do have, for example, a chronological log of all the activity for this given individual. So can I ask a question that, hey, are they working hard or not? And AI can actually do those things. And so I think those risks are always there. The more you observe people, their behavior, and their work, you can use it in two different ways. Like one is to actually use it to, for example, like help them with AI and do half of their work for them. So provide value to that individual. But it does also have this like this kind of like I don't know whether to call it downside or not, but it does give you like more enhanced visibility into the workings of your team members. And personally, like I feel like it's better to actually even like have AI build these tools, because it allows you to do performance management in a more unbiased manner inside your enterprise. The more you know, the better you can manage your team members, and it doesn't have to be seen as surveillance. It has to be seen as like your managers can help you more with all that insights that they have on you.
You've got this fantastic program inside Glean called Glean on Glean, which actually pairs new graduates with internal leaders to transform business processes with AI. I kind of love this idea because you're really leaning into graduates and you're thinking about how to structure your company and your processes better. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, that was exactly the idea behind it. I mean, first of all, we are a native Gen AI company, so it's kind of embarrassing that sometimes like our customers would shame us. They're actually using AI more than us internally. We have the same workforce. Like we don't have a different type of workforce than somebody else. People have experience doing work in a certain way, and changing habits is hard. And so, what was the best way to like how do you figure out how to completely reinvent a business process? Well, we felt that the most effective way would be to bring somebody who's no idea, like who doesn't have any habits built yet, um, but they are actually familiar with AI and they can actually rethink and reimagine. And so that was the idea behind combining the new grads with the experienced executives, because they're diametrically opposite in terms of what they know and what they don't know, and bringing them two together has actually allowed us to bring automation across different business functions, in which I think would not have happened without like that uh, this strategy. So that's why we've been talking a lot about that. One of the ideas which I think it would be a really good one would be for every executive to have a new grad as somebody like who observes you, like a chief of staff, and their sole job is to sort of, because you like as an exec, you work at a department level, like you work on big things, so they can identify those opportunities, where AI should be playing a bigger role.
They kind of shadow you and look for optimization opportunities.
Yeah.
We've covered a heap of interesting topics through this conversation. I could chat to you for hours, I think, but I would love you to leave us with one thing every leader should make sure their teams are doing right now to make sure that they don't miss this moment in AI and the future digital workforce.
I think it's obvious to say to leaders that, hey, embrace AI, get your teams to embrace AI, set OKRs and goals for every quarter to get some business processes replaced with AI. And that's sort of all general stuff. I think like one of the things which I feel is not talked about enough is that you as a very senior leader, how hands-on are you yourself with AI? And I feel like if you are not hands-on, you will just not have that instinct. You will not be able to drive the company fast enough with AI. So you have to actually build some automations yourself. For example, go and build your own chief of staff. And it's easy. And when you actually go and get it done is when you will actually, realize how to lead your teams to do the same.
What's the last thing you got hands on with?
I built an offer approval agent, which is like, so I like at our company, I still go and review every new application and the people who join the company. And I've always been passionate about that. But of course, time is kind of becoming my enemy on that front. And so now I have this agent, where I've actually guided it. It's a long document that I've written about all the things I want to be testing in a packet. And it runs as every time, there's a new offer in Greenhouse, which is the tool we use. It is saving me a tremendous amount of time, but it actually is still able to sort of get my input into that hiring process. Another one that I'm actually developing right now is kind of a chief of staff for me. I have a chief of staff, he and I together, we are trying to actually, make his job go away in some sense. We're trying to actually automate all the things, that he does with AI. And that's, by his choice, by the way, just to be clear. He wants to actually do more things, new things. So it works for both of us. But yeah, it's and I think I did feel that way. For a long time, I was also asking people to do more AI, but I think it was very different from when I actually went much deeper. I've been using, of course, AI tools a lot, but now that I build these more complex automations for my day to day is when I'm truly feeling the power of AI. And I'm actually now able to effectively lead and convince other people in my team to do the same.
That's pretty cool. And I love that you're walking the walk as well as talking the talk. All right. I think Matt has had enough time to feed your wonderful sketch into AI and work with it just a little bit. So I would love to bring him back to see the final results of this human AI, human creative triangle. Matt, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Brilliant. Can't wait to see what you've come up with.
I vibe coded this 8-bit game.
Wow.
Inspired by Arvind's childhood computer.
Wow. Looks beautiful.
Thank you. So it loads up like a Commodore 64 would, and you press space to play, and you have a miniature version of Arvind gleaning signal from noise as he has done throughout his career. And that is a game. It's a playable game.
That's really cool.
That is amazing. It's a Pac-Man game, but with Arvind at the center. We got to come up with a great name for this. Jane Man, I don't know.
I like it. This is very cool.
Amazing.
It's impressive that the whole thing was wipe coded in that small amount of time. So well done, Matt.
Thank you.
How did you come up with the little Arvind, Matt?
I did a screenshot of Arvind's screen here right now on the podcast. So I got it to vibe code an 8-bit, small 8-bit version.
That is amazing and so creative, Matt. Thank you for doing that. It truly shows off what people and AI can do together.
Amazing. Thank you.
All right. I would love to close out this episode with some of our rapid fire questions. 60 seconds on the clock. Are you ready, Arvind?
Yes, let's go.
What is one workflow you still don't trust AI with?
Well, there's so many that I still don't. So I like, me being in the supervision and being the master. So like I was telling you before, I have this agent that approves or rejects offers, but it only gets to say that to me. I still go and review all of its work to make the final decision on every candidate.
What is the most overhyped word in AI right now?
Agents. I'm kind of like, tired of that word, because every time I ask somebody to do something, they say that I'm going to build an agent for it. For some reason, the term doesn't sit well with me. Kind of like application more than agents, but anyhow.
That's a good take. What is the first way you use AI every morning?
I use the Plan My Day agent in Glean. So I open my browser in a new tab, and it exactly tells me all the things I need to do today and how to be ready for each one of my meetings.
Good tip. What's a company using AI in a way that genuinely surprised you?
I was really amazed to see the variety of agents that some of our customers built. Like specifically the ones that surprised me the most were when people started to use us as a performance management tool inside their company, and have during their perf cycle, they have Glean agents to write self-assessments, peer assessments. Now it sort of feels normal, but I think the first time when that happened was a use case that I had not expected people to actually power using our knowledge graph.
And what is one skill every young person should still learn, even with AI everywhere?
Actually, they should learn most of the skills that they were learning before. Like, they should figure out how to be analytical, how to actually write well. I mean, these skills are actually, even though AI helps you write, like I do believe that that is actually a skill that's going to be one of the most valuable ones, especially in this new world where everybody can write. And so you can set yourself apart by being, like a really good writer who's concise and to the point.
And that's it. What a great conversation. That is all we have time for. Thank you so much for diving deep with me on the messiness of enterprises and how AI is revolutionizing it. Thank you, Arvind.
Thank you so much, Cameron. This was super fun, and I really enjoyed the conversation as well as the production from Matt.
I'm looking forward to playing 8-Bit Arvind. And thank you, listeners, for joining us on this episode of Prompted, a podcast about AI, people, and the creative spark. To keep up with future episodes, please subscribe wherever you love to listen to podcasts, or head on over to YouTube. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a rating or a review. We read every single one and always love hearing your thoughts. Until next time, keep chasing that creative spark. Just a reminder, if you're keen to join us at our AI Vision event in Sydney, scan the QR code on screen or search for AI Vision Sydney. I would love to see you there.